In this video I'm going to go through the wiring layout for your appliances, the two charging methods, solar panel and battery to battery relays. We're going to go through 240 volts and how to access it in your van. So that means appliances that can't necessarily run off 12 volt. Right then, to start off with, we're going to be talking about the layout and how you would lay out your cables, your wires, and plan to what for where your batteries are going to go and the appliances, because this is all very important before you board up the sides or carpet the sides, because you don't want your cables running on the outside of all your boards. Simple as that. So let's look at a diagram now. Before I look at charging methods, we'll look at how to go from the battery to appliances. You take the positive to straight to your appliance or to the switch panel. If you're going from the switch panel, you then take the live from the switch panel to the appliance after that. Also notice that from the switch panel there is a negative going to a grounding point, and also from the appliance. The grounding point is where all your negatives go to, connected to the chassis. So it's a bit that you might sand a bit of paint off and connect a bolt to, so that it's bare metal, and this lets all of the electricity kind of dissipate over the body of the van. If you are having two batteries, then you connect the positive to positive and the negative to negative as shown on the diagram. And if you're connecting your appliances to them, make sure to connect across both batteries, otherwise you'll be using one battery more than the other. Just before I go into charging methods, we'll see my wiring layout in my van before I boarded up the sides. Here is where everything's come in to the switch panel. I've left the cables long enough to come down the side here, and the switch panel is going to be in a worktop cabinet on the side, right here. 5-gang switch panel. So I've got 5 different live leads coming from appliances over the van. As you can see, there's one here for the light. I've got it running, another one running through here, down to there, all the way down there. That is for a USB input, so that I can plug my phone in when I'm in bed. The bed's going to be here. I've got another light coming out here, and obviously this live will run also back to the switch panel. So like I say, all the lives for the appliances down to the switch panel, and then the live for the switch panel is running down near where the battery is going to be, along with all the negatives. So the lives come to here, negatives from the lights, for example, these negatives will run all the way to there near the battery to go on a bus bar where they'll be grounded. You could ground them right at where the appliance is, but for peace of mind I just like to take it all back down to there to ground it all together, ground it all in one. Here, this is a complete different system. It's the 240 system. It's not the 12 volt system, so you can ignore all of that for this. This is the 240 outlet like sockets that I'm going to have, and there's the inlet where you can charge your battery, and that runs all the way around here, up there, wait, there it is, look, up there, all the way around the top, down to there as well, along with everything. And that's all this here. That big box there is literally just for the 240. So I hope that's helped with how you're going to lay out your appliances, for example your lights, your TV or your 12 volt sockets. Now we're going to move on to 2 different charging methods. One's solar panel and one is people call it a relay charger, or a battery to battery charger, depending on if you have a smart alternator. So the first method of charging is a solar panel. Notice that a live goes from the solar panel to an MPPT controller. These tend to be the best controllers. I've written Epever on there because that is the brand of the one that I went for. And then the live from the controller goes down to the leisure battery, and this is how it charges. Then to see the amount of voltage in the battery and how much it's charged, you could take a voltmeter from the battery and it'll just read it for you. So charging method number 2, in my opinion, it's a bit harder to get your head around because I've done both, and this I did for my second van. The battery to battery charger needs a live coming from the starter battery to the battery to battery charger and an ignition live. This ignition live could be coming from the fuse board, and you can check if it's ignition live by turning the engine on and turning it off and using a multimeter across the 2 little fuses. I've done a video on how I fitted this, so that would explain all of that in that video. Or it could be an ignition live from the alternator, depending on what's easiest to get to for you. And these both are connected to the battery charger. Then from the charger you go take a live straight to your leisure batteries, and also on my battery to battery charger I had a sensor, and this then charges the batteries as you're driving. So I hope put both of those charging methods quite simply. On the diagrams you'll notice that there are fuses. Usually you tend to buy these in kits, so with the kits the fuses will come with them. If they don't, then I just suggest ringing up and asking what sort of fuses they would advise. Moving on to 240 volts. So there's 2 ways of doing it. One way is off grid and one way is via a hookup on a campsite or at your house. So first we'll go through the hookup. Also with the 240 volt, a lot of it is 3-core cable. This means that there is a live, a neutral and a ground, and it usually comes as one cable. So I've not actually colour coded that in the drawings, but you'll sort of see I've labelled the negatives and should come across okay. Here we have the diagram. It goes from the mains, which could be from your house or from a campsite hookup, to the hookup on your van via a 3-core cable that you can just get off Amazon or something. Then from the hookup another 3-core cable goes to a consumer unit, which is where your fuses are. It's pretty simple, and you can buy the consumer unit separately or in a kit. Then from the consumer unit you take it out to all your appliances that you want. So one appliance could be a battery charger, which is convenient if you have leisure batteries. I've tried to draw a plugged in, because that's what mine looks like. It's literally just plugged into a plug socket, which is wired up to the consumer unit and fused. And then the battery charger is then connected to the battery by a live wire, and then the negative is connected to a ground point. So moving on to the inverter, this is kind of tricky when it comes to the amount of power you need and stuff, because it's not like you could just whack a microwave on, because it just kill your leisure battery. But otherwise this is the off-grid method. All it is, it's pretty simple. You just take a live to the inverter, and both the inverter and your battery have to be grounded. Then from the inverter usually has plugs in it, so you could just plug like an extension lead, or wire up a plug to a 3-core cable and then just plug it into your inverter, and then take the 3-core cable to a couple of sockets or switches or whatever you need. But just be careful, because you will also need to fuse these, and if you plug in something that takes a lot of energy, you're going to drain your leisure battery, so you just have to be careful with this. Let's look at my van and my sort of electrics area. I mean, it's not too pretty, but it doesn't need to be, and it's quite clear, it's laid out quite nicely, and hopefully you can sort of get the gist of what is where. I'll try and label it where I can. So I took the live from the battery, took it straight to here, and then the switch panel goes to here, and so does the heater. So if I turn this on, the switch panel over here comes on, and that's when I can start using everything. This LED display does actually drain your battery, however not much at all. But if you're not using your van for months at a time, or if you need to make any changes to the electric system and stuff, you can just flick it off with the flick of the switch, rather than having to unscrew the top of the live on the battery and, you know, risk shorting something, I don't know. But so the battery isolator is an amazing thing to have. I've also got these connected up. I think it's in parallel. Yeah, it's in parallel, and to do that you take the live from this one,
put it to the live, connect it to the live on the other battery. You take the negative and do the same of the other battery. So then you use, what you have to use is the live from one battery and the negative from the other battery. These are put in opposite way around. So here I have the negative from one battery and the live from the other. And this makes sure that you're using energy or voltage from both of the batteries rather than draining one first and then draining the other. Here you can see how I did that in the other video for the DC to DC charger. The grounds are all connected and grounded to my grounding point. This is just all of the negatives from all of the appliances that run to there. They don't run anywhere else, just straight from the appliance to the grounding bus bar. This is a bus bar that I got from 12 Volt Planet, and yeah, this is all of my 240 volt setup, which works when you're plugged in to a 240 volt outlet on a campsite, which works. These plugs and this switch here, this switch is for the cool box down there, or it could be a fridge. But yeah,
so that is it for this video. I hope it helped you wrap your head around the electrics for a van conversion and sort of sets you off in the right direction, because it's really just a brief summary of things for a van conversion. Alright, bye.